Welcome to week 8 of this NFL regular season. We're back from the bye. I want to say thank you to both of my co-hosts for taking care of business, holding down the fort last week when I was traveling. Cole Jackson, Jeff Zaribek, I'm Bobby Trossett. Great to have you guys with us. It is Tuesday, October 21st. And yeah, stop us if you've heard it before. It is must-win season in Baltimore. Chicago comes to town this upcoming weekend. It's Bears-Ravens, 1 o'clock at the bank. And we've got a lot to get to tonight. It's brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. And as you see in the left-hand side of your screen right now, our rundown of topics are as follows. Will, simply put, Lamar Jackson play? Certainly a change in messaging, perhaps, before and after the bye from John Harbaugh. We'll get your guys' thoughts on that. Whose seats are hot? And we mean red hot, player personnel-wise, going into Sunday. What's at stake? Maybe a little buy or sell game. And then just simple keys to beating the Chicago Bears, who come in. Sure, we can talk about the degree of difficulty of their schedule all we want, but they are winners of 4 in a row. The Ravens, on the other side, losers of 4 in a row. And that is where we stand today. Great to see you guys. Jeff, Lamar going to play on Sunday if you're a betting man?
I think the answer is, does Lamar practice Wednesday? And if the answer is yes, I think he plays. If the answer is no, I don't think he plays. The reality of the answer is it's Lamar's decision. I think John Harbaugh has made that clear in the past that, Lamar has earned the right to, he knows how he feels. He knows his body. He knows his capabilities. By all accounts, he had a really good bye week. He worked hard on rehab. They were hoping he would practice Monday. He was not on the practice field. So apparently he hasn't felt right or hasn't felt ready to make that step. And all eyes will be on the practice field at about 1:30 Wednesday to see if he's out there. Because, I think he's cleared most of the medical hurdles. There's backs that I'm aware of. It's just a matter of how comfortable he is playing with this and how he feels, and if he's able to get through a practice or two, how his hamstring responds, and then we'll see from there. But yeah, there's no doubt there seemed to be a much more confidence going into the bye week than there was on Monday, when the expectation from everyone I heard was they were very optimistic he'd practice. He was not on the practice field. He was not ready to go. So Wednesday's the next kind of mile marker, for lack of better expression, to see if fully able to play Sunday.
Yeah, I think John Harbaugh has made his messaging clear when he says it's up to him or starts to transition the messaging that way. I think that's pretty clear what he's saying, that, the medical staff has cleared him and it's truly up to them to whether or not that's feeling comfortable, whatever it may be. We kind of saw this recently with Patrick Ricard, where, the injury updates were, a little bit more concrete on, ramping up, working back, whatever. And then when it switches to it's up to Pat, then where they stand. I think, if we read through the lines a little bit, we can see what's going on there. So it's Lamar Jackson's decision. Completely agree with Jay-Z if he's not on that practice field tomorrow. If I had to put money on it, I personally don't think he will play. But that's just if I was a betting man, just seeing how things have gone, going back to some of the previous times that we've seen some players miss practices with this type of messaging.
Yeah, Bobby, and I want to be clear. I don't think this is necessarily taking longer than anyone expected. I think this was always going to be the week where he had a true shot to play. With a hamstring injury, with even a semi, I don't know how to, I don't want to say modest hamstring injury. It wasn't extremely minor. It wasn't extremely major, somewhere in between. You're usually looking at 3-4 weeks, or anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. We're right in the middle. This was the first game they were going to have a decision to make, and it was kind of going to be, he has a legitimate chance to play. Can he make it to the finish line? And here we are. This isn't the case of quitting or any of that, or the Ravens holding him out for any reason. This was all along the expectation that this was the game a decision was going to have to be made. And Wednesday will be the time where there's make a decision, because I just don't see how you can put him on the field after one practice in 3.5, 4 weeks. I mean, that's just not, this guy runs your offense. He's in charge. And yes, he's been here for a long time. But, there's rust to knock off. He needs to get back in a rhythm with his players. There's a game plan to execute. And if he's only practicing once or maybe twice in this span of time, it's going to be hard for him to be ready to play Sunday. And as an aside, they play 5 days later or whatever it is. 4 days later. So if he can't play this Sunday, and if he's not practicing this week, you could probably pretty much rule him out for next week too, because it's such a quick turnaround in that Thursday game. He needs to get on the practice field this week to have any chance of playing next week too.
Yeah, and this really goes to show the expectation management. We had reporters, which I'm assuming they were getting their information from somewhere, saying the first week that the injury happened that there's a chance, a real chance, I think is what the exact quote was. And that was bullshit the whole time. Like, I don't understand how this always seems to happen. And then there's always all this blowback towards John Harbaugh and injuries. And, sometimes injuries are just complicated. Like, I personally, if you go back to the Brashad Perriman injury, like, that was a PCL injury. They're known for being very difficult. I genuinely think they just didn't know what was going on and they had to wait till to see how he kind of reacted. But I just find, like, just do better expectation management. Like, I don't know who put that messaging out there. Like, who feeds that up to those guys to tweet out? But, what were you thinking? Like, if you're saying in the first week that there's a real chance, then once after the bye, everyone just, like, if you go look at Twitter's response on Monday when he wasn't out there, people were shocked. And we talked about this last week. Like, I didn't think it was a lock by any means. That's kind of what we talked about. And I just think, I don't know how this happens, but like I said, just piss poor expectation management.
Yeah, to get on my soapbox for the first of many times on the show tonight, guys, I don't think, and this is not just this is not just John Harbaugh, this is not just Eric DeCosta, this is not Ozzie Newt, this is not PR staff. I don't think you do the players, and the players sometimes do themselves any favors by some of this injury stuff. Like when it's that ambiguous, I think people start talking and making accusations about a player's not working hard to come back, player doesn't want to play, team doctors are incompetent, Harbaugh's lying. You get all this stuff, and nobody is spared. It's a competitive business, and they should not be in the business of telling other teams who to prepare for and saying anything definitive about players so other teams know who's playing, who's not. I'm not suggesting that, but I do think there's a better way you can handle it. I also think it would not hurt players sometimes to talk. Even if they, these guys are smart. Most of these guys have dealt with the media. They can talk around it. They can say, look, I'm busting my ass to get back Sunday. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. I'm trying hard. Like, there's ways you can do it where there's not as much ambiguity and finger pointing. And, Cole said it's best. Manage expectations a little bit. I just don't think you do anybody any favors. And anybody, I mean, Harbaugh, team doctors, players, all that. I don't think there's an intention to deceive here. I just think there's a kind of an effort to say as little as possible. And I don't know if that helps the situation in a lot of these cases.
Man, even on the national level, like the Jay Glazers of the world, I think it was on a Fox pregame show, gave it an outside chance was the paraphrase or the phrase that he used. So, yeah, there's been a lot of mixed messaging, a lot of messaging straight up about it. It's noteworthy, and some tape that I saw from practice yesterday, Jeff, maybe you can confirm this, that since Lamar was not present, it sure seemed like Linderbaum and Cooper were lining up together as if to say, like John Harbaugh said already multiple times now, that Cooper would continue to be the primary backup for Lamar.
Yeah, but they play games, so we were let at it. I wouldn't be able to answer that anyway. We're not allowed to comment who's taking first team, but we were let out before the full team stuff started. When we were, Monday was a bonus day. We usually don't have access Monday, but it was off the bye week, so we got access to a little bit of the practice and interviews, which is not standard on a Monday. So we were let out like while they were doing warm-ups after the special teams phase. And I didn't even see with my own eyes who took the first rep in full team because I wasn't out there. But
President didn't bag you guys and then walk you out.
I honestly, guys, like it'll be a couple days, but I don't know how you can start Cooper Rush. I just don't. I mean, and granted, I don't think Huntley was great shakes either. Between the holding on the ball, what do you get sacked 5 times in 25 snaps or something like that? And so I there's issues either way, but I just think you get a little more juice with Huntley. I think the belief in some of the skill position players is a little bit higher, but. And let's not forget, Tyler Huntley has beaten the Chicago Bears before. Not like that matters at this point, but when you're grasping for straws, when you're looking for stuff to feel better about, I bring you that.
He's our Bears. We just signed him to beat the Bears.
Remember that? Wasn't that the famous game where Wink did a cover 0 blitz and left Chris Westry in one-on-one coverage late in the game?
Yeah.
Wink took a while for Wink to live that one down.
There's a lot of people within this live audience that want Wink back these days. Goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, that's sort of our opening topic as it relates to Lamar. And as Jeff's noted already a couple of times, we're going to learn a whole lot more once it's funny. It kind of feels like it's later in the week because you come off the bye and then all of a sudden, wait, there's practice news and there's reports and there's press conferences and media scrums, but it's really only Tuesday. So day 1 of 3, if you will, for practice begins tomorrow, and we'll have more to react to as we follow Jeff's Twitter and everybody else on the beat over the next several days. Transitioning to red hot seats from a player perspective. We all have someone in mind that we've talked about in our pre-show meeting, and we feel like legitimately is sitting on a hot seat going into week 8. It's a must win. Cole, why don't we start with you? I don't know if there's one specific player in mind as I remind myself who you have here, but maybe you do. Maybe you have multiple players in mind. Your player or plural players who are sitting on the hottest seats going into the Bears game.
Yeah, it's the offensive line, and there's multiple positions to take a look at because, Jay-Z's right. Cooper Rush has not impressed me, but I saw from Cooper Rush the same type of issues that I saw from Lamar Jackson, and the difference is the caliber of athlete and the caliber of quarterback made the outcomes just look a lot different. Whereas Lamar Jackson will get pressured and can turn, chicken shit into chicken salad. Cooper Rush can't quite do that with his athleticism. Neither can Huntley. Huntley can run, but I mean, he held on to that ball trying to make a play. But the pass protection has been, for lack of a better word, dog shit for, the whole season, going back to week 1. They have not adequately protect the quarterback. And this is what people, I think, when I did my film on the Kansas City game, a lot of people felt I was blaming Lamar Jackson, but and maybe I didn't do a good enough job of kind of caveating it before I jumped into it. But when you have games that stack and you're giving up 40+% of your dropbacks having pressure on the quarterback, it builds up, right? It's like quicksand. Not to quote the Replacements, but it is like quicksand because you just slowly sink further and further. Every single drop back becomes more sped up, and the more sped up you are, the more mistakes you have. And a lot of people talking about Pat Ricard, and Pat Ricard will make a difference. He absolutely will, but I don't think he's a silver bullet to just having 5 guys up front be able to execute better. And that's been the fundamental problem. Every time I do a pass protection video, I always go into it and it's like, all right, who should I focus on? Well, you can't really pick one guy because at any given moment, one of the 5 are causing the issues. We've had multiple games this year with 2+ pressures per offensive lineman. It's just everybody's losing too many reps. And, it can be the interior as a collective, but then, you have a game like the Browns where both tackles are getting beat up and, it is Myles Garrett, but you still you have to have some sort of answer for Myles Garrett. So all that to say is multiple guys on this offensive line should be on the hot seat. I think at the top of mine will be our right guard, Daniel Falele. I don't see the athleticism. I haven't seen the development. But Andrew Voorhees is right there as well. And then, I don't think they have a viable replacement on the roster, but if you look at the performance of a guy like Roger Rosengarten, he is not built on his success down the stretch last year. So how quickly can these guys bounce back? Will we see some sort of gel post bye week? Who knows? We've been talking about changes. They kind of hinted at there could be a change on the O-line. I don't personally expect one because I just don't really know where they're going to go. This team does not like Ben Cleveland. It really has nothing to do with my opinion of Ben Cleveland. Ben Cleveland's had 18 chances to start a game and they don't go to him, whether that's his fault, the coach's fault. I don't even really care at this point. It really comes down to what I think they're going to do, and they just haven't ever gone there. So why would they go there now? I would be surprised. I've always been going out there with Corey Bullock because I think this team's best option to run the football is to be an outside zone football team. I think Corey Bullock fits that. They've made it clear. George Warhop talked about it during the bye week. They see him as their backup center, and there's a lot of value in that backup center position. If he gets hurt playing right guard and then Linderbaum gets hurt, Jay-Z might be out there snapping the football. So, I don't know how we want to see that. So, it's just one of those things of who's on your bench to come in and replace these guys. That's why, last year, we're seeing a guy like Patrick McCary who, kind of got run out of town, but the grass isn't always greener sometimes with these guys. And, there's a lot of value in having a Patrick McCary as your sixth man, or, being able to swap in for a guy that you don't think is living up to expectations. I would kill for Patrick McCary to be the right guard on Sunday. It's just,
I got two follow-ups for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Two follow-ups. One, what's your biggest gripe with Rosengarten? Because you've talked about the underperformance several times this year.
Yep.
And two, should Ricard be able to go? We already said that's kind of murky waters based on the messaging from Monday. If Ricard can go, how are you using him to best serve in the name of support from an alignment standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Rosengarten, my biggest issue is I just did a film breakdown on him on Monday. So if people want more specifics, go check it out. I found he's been a little bit more tentative in terms of his pass sets. Last year, he was really good at taking a harsh vertical set and then jumping out quick on a guy and really mixing up their sets. And then I watch him go against Aiden Hutchinson where, that's why he had success when he single blocked TJ Watt. He didn't let TJ Watt dictate those pass snaps. He dictated them, and he's gotten away from that this year. And I don't know if that's from, I always struggle with this, right? Like I anytime I talk about positional coaches, I'm always a little hesitant just because I don't know what he's focusing on, but I have a hard time seeing George Warhop being a step up in terms of a coach. Like all we've seen is guys regress. So, I don't know. Is it they're just not executing what they're coaching? It's hard for me to say without being there, but there's an issue when everybody's regressing. So my two things that I focused on with Rosengarten was him not being as aggressive in his pass sets and just overall his hands. He's playing with outside hands. He's giving up his chest and he's letting guys turn him into to a sled. So that was number one. And then number two, how you use Patrick Ricard. 6-0 line. They like to do that where they line him up in line. They use him in pass sets. There were APA numbers out there, and I'm definitely not an analytics guy, but even if you go look at their 21 personnel, which is could look like 12, and he's kind of the second tight end. But they throw league high EPA out of that because it's not so much Patrick Ricard's impact as a receiver, obviously, it's his impact as an offensive lineman. So his ability to, send that help left, send Tyler Linderbaum left, and then be that kind of right side chip to help out Rosengarten. But at the same time, like Todd Monken wants to be a 5-man protection unit. He wants to get 7 out in patterns. A lot of people have been talking about the lack of separation this year. It's because they're only able to send 3 guys out in patterns because they keep in 2 to block. That's not an effective offense. If we have to keep in 1, sure, I can live with that because you get your running back as your check down option, but that's been one of the fundamental flaws of this team. And you've seen it. Like they haven't been able to, where's Isaiah Likely been? Like they haven't been able to feature him. They haven't been able to be creative in this offense because they don't have the time in the pocket due to the offensive line.
Hey, Jeff, coming off the bye, do you have a feel for any change that you'd be forecasting along the line?
I've said from the beginning, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a change Sunday.
Nothing's changed with that opinion.
Nothing's changed with that. And again, you saw some guys working on combo blocks, and that usually is a good hint. But it was a little mixed. Ronnie was still limited in a way, so he wasn't involved in a lot of stuff. So that mixed some stuff up. I wouldn't be able to say it, but I didn't see enough to know. This is based on it just seems to be John Harbaugh was fed up, and he hates when we try to put words. Well, I don't know about we, but I know he hates when I try to put words in his mouth, and I often hear about it. So, but to me, it's clear. I think they were at wit's end. I think that goal line sequence in the Rams game is kind of the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. And I think there will be a change in there. Now, I haven't gotten that confirmed. They wouldn't want that out there anyway. But they've had multiple chances to say there won't be changes, and they haven't said that either. Yeah. And you know what, guys, I think something else should be mentioned. Ben Cleveland wasn't in the building a couple days the previous week. So they could have gone to a change earlier, and they're not going to make the change. He had the personal issue, and, he's going through some stuff. So he wasn't in the building. So, he has to be there to start. They're not going to, give him a starting. I don't want to say give him. They're not going to promote him into the starting role if he's not practicing all week. That he needs to be there working with the first team. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sourcing anything. I'm not, I know how these things go. Zrebeck and Ben Cleveland will start Sunday. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying from what I saw in John Harbaugh's press conferences.
I'm tweeting it right now.
What I saw, I think I would be surprised. I'd be moderately surprised if there's not some sort of change in the offensive line.
Do you kind of see the Corey Bullock thing the same way, just with him being the backup center? That would limit his opportunities.
Honestly, Cole, I think it's a rep thing in practice, and I think he gets his reps as the backup center. Yeah. And I think Linderbaum has been limited a bit in this season too, where he's taken some reps as the first team center, Corey Bullock, because Linderbaum's been banged up. And Linderbaum, who plays every week, has been dealing with physical issues. So I think they feel like they need Corey Bullock at center right now in case he has to step in. And he's still learning that position in a lot of ways. So they want him taking the reps there. So, that's why I would, if I'm guessing, I'd say Ben Cleveland. I just doesn't sound like they're that open, the idea of starting Corey Bullock at guard. But hey, they did a lot of self-scouting over the bye week. They did a lot of talks, meetings, meetings and film, all that. So maybe they've changed their mind. But to me, it seems like they're pretty entrenched with him as the backup center, which would mean Ben Cleveland's next man up at guard.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, you got to watch your back. We know how our guy does with sources over there. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think Roy's doing right now, by the way?
He's enjoying himself. I think we all know that.
What a guy. Absolute beauty.
Oh, hey, Jeff, you're up next in terms of your hot seat player. But first, a quick pause and a word from this episode's sponsor.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
All right, as you heard there, promo code HMA. HMA is going to get you up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. You can see Sleeper's, terms of use for details. It's currently operational in over 25 states. You can check out Sleeper more today, and we thank them for the continued support of this program on Tuesday nights. Moving forward, over 300 concurrents here tonight. Guys, it goes without saying, if you could please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, goes a long way in this channel's growth. And why don't we take a quick pause before we get to before we get to Jeff, and I have one as well in terms of hot seat players. We've got a lot more content coming in the second half of the show. But first, you got to read this one, Jeff. The first of 4 super chats so far tonight. This one comes in from, is it Lord Eddard? Jeff, take it away.
Eddard, is this one of Cole's boys? Jeffrey Z. Okay, I'll let that go. The most handsomest, I'm not going to let that go, man in the entire, I don't even know what that word is, of Caliphate. Canada. What the heck is a caliphate, Cole?
You're not caught up on your Islamic extremism, apparently.
and I'm I guess the proper response of that is thank you.
There we go.
Lord Edward, definitely from my channel.
I was going to say, is this one of your guys? Is this one of your cronies?
Of course, Cole.
Yeah, we get weird over there. You know that.
You bring all the riffraff over here.
Big offensive linemen running headfirst into each other. It's all good.
Oh, Lord Edward, appreciate it. Great stuff. On to Sam we go. And Sam writes, any update on Madubuike's status for 2026? Also, do you know if the Ravens took out insurance on his contract so they can get future cap relief? Jeff, throw it to you on this one.
No, on both. Harbaugh's been very reluctant to address Nnamdi Madubuike's status. He said it's really up to him to talk about. I've requested Nnamdi Madubuike, because I think everybody wants to know, but he's not. We've not been able to get in touch with him or set up anything in terms of a Zoom or an interview. I haven't seen him in the locker room really since the injury. And, you see his locker and it doesn't seem like he's even around the building. His locker looks like it's untouched most days. He has been on the sideline a bit, I think, during games. So, and I don't know about the insurance question. But yeah, that's a question that I've asked, and you also got to remember just kind of some inside reporting stuff. It's hard. You don't want to source a story about a guy's potential career, like in a medical issue like that. I think that needs to come from Nnamdi Madubuike, a high-ranking Ravens official who's willing and able to talk about it, or Nnamdi Madubuike's agent. And all three sides have been reluctant to speak on the matter right now. So, I understand, though, that's a huge question, and that's something I know I am, and I imagine other reporters are trying to track down, but it's just been really difficult.
Not to mention the future of this interior defensive line hangs in the balance based on the answer to this question. So thanks, Sam. Cole, why don't you take this one from JS1919?
Look forward to this every Tuesday. Great work. Ravens fan from Chicago. Just can't imagine LJ goes 2022 all over again. Good thing the ping pong tables are gone. Harb's approach is gone stale.
And that brings us to Sway. And Sway writes, what's the plan at edge? Going into a must-win game with 3 edge players, one being a Jabo, is definitely a choice. And maybe we can just take a quick peek ahead at, I know, something we were probably going to address later on in the program. But, Jeff, 2 weeks from today, 4 p.m. Eastern, November 4th, is the trade deadline. I know you guys handled this a lot when I was gone on Tuesday, right? Buying versus selling. I haven't watched that show in full, but if there's anything you'd like to add on this and what they might be doing based on what happens on Sunday, maybe you can spend a minute doing so now.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Part of me would say I am surprised there's not been any 53-man roster additions in the 10 days since that Rams game. Knowing the importance of this coming game and how much they need a win. But there's also the other part of me saying if they lose Sunday, forget it. I don't think you make, maybe you make a couple Band-Aids to get through the season. But if you're 1-6, you're not trading assets to get, right? You can't. I don't see the point. I think one team in the history, modern day NFL, and it was a 1970 team, has made the playoffs going 1-6. The season's pretty much over in terms of making the playoffs. So if you're Eric DeCosta, I think you have to kind of see how Sunday plays out, and probably Thursday too, because there's not really enough time to get another guy in here on the short rest. So I think you reevaluate late that Thursday night after the Dolphins game and see where you are. And if you win 2 games, maybe Pittsburgh drops another game, and you say, you know what, we're going to go for it. But I'm a little surprised though they haven't brought anybody in for like temporary relief, because you're right, you're going into the Bears game with an edge group of, Mike Green and Kyle Van Noy. Okay. But then Jabo, who's just been ineffective, is your 3. And I guess your number 4 is either Malik Cam or Kamon Rucker, elevation off the practice squad. But also, guys, league-wide, it's clear there's not a whole lot available right now in the trade market, or you'd have seen teams make deals. Do you want Matt Judon? You could probably get him for not much, but what are you getting there? You getting a guy that's going to actually help. They brought in 2 veterans, Canadian fella, Jesse Luketa, I think is how you pronounce it, Cole.
Luketa, he's from Ottawa, played for the Cumberland Panthers.
Yeah, and you probably played with him at some point, I'd imagine. And Lawson they brought in, who had 5 sacks last year. But again, these guys haven't been really playing. I mean, these guys aren't going to be ready in 2 days after not practicing. So it's a little surprising to me that we haven't seen any veterans added to the 53. But again, there's still time. They still have the Tavius Robinson piece to IR. If you're comfortable in Pat Ricard status, you can waive Mitchell Payton. They have plenty of roster flexibility here to bring guys in, but just seems kind of like they're in the wait and see mode. These 2 games could so much decide what happens at the deadline, whether you're buyers and sellers. It seems like I'm simplifying it, but why would you pour assets into a team that if they lose Sunday is pretty much out of it? I know people are going to say that's the loser way to look at it, but I think it's the smart way to look at it. I would maybe try a temporary guy to see if you can get someone in here just to give you 8 to 10 good plays. But even that's kind of hard to find right now on the market. I mean, look, the Eagles got Brandon Graham out of retirement. I think that says a lot about the state of what's available in the edge rush market.
Hey, T-Sizzle's out there.
But is he not attending the game? Isn't he a legend of the game?
Yeah. To Jay-Z's point, like if you're going to add a guy with the state of the team, doing it during the bye week made the most sense because you get a week to install, right? Like it's a week that you can get him in the building and he kind of has, the intro during a week where you're not game prepping. Like they're in game prep mode tomorrow. So are they really going to work in like Carl Lawson's a vet. He knows this isn't his first rodeo. So installing's not the end of the world, but at this point, they might just be looking for bodies to eat snaps. Like it goes back to the year when they had Jason Pierre-Paul and Yannick Ngakoue Part 2 and
Justin Houston and
like they've had to go through some of these, right? Where I think
get me Trenton Simpson on the edge. Just give him a chance. What do you have to lose at this
point?
They
gave him 8 snaps as an edge rusher on.
You got Roquan Smith now back. You don't, he probably will have a limited role on the inside anyway. Just give him a chance. I mean, at this point.
I mean, no one's getting pressure anyway.
I know.
Falele off the edge. Maybe he'll
oh God, back to Daniel Falele.
That's all of a sudden the mobility that we've all been clamoring for shows up.
I've been saying since we drafted him, he's a fullback, and they just haven't. Todd Monken hasn't gone to the bag, but it's okay.
Well, we keep referencing like the strategizing going into play on a short week. Just to remind everybody, it's Chicago on Sunday, and then the quick turnaround comes in the form of a Halloween weekend Thursday Miami game at Hard Rock. So it's Bears, it's Dolphins. You get the mini bye, and then you go to Minnesota, who's been leaning on QB2 with Carson Wentz. So that's sort of the 3-week window. That's what the picture looks like. Jeff, I'll let you catch your breath for a second here. I'll sneak this in quickly. You just mentioned Roquan's name. That's my hot seat player. This is his former team. I think there are always going to be emotions for Roquan, how it ended in Chicago, what he wasn't able to accomplish in Chicago, and maybe even some feelings that have been left over and spilled over in different cases with the front office. Not to mention, outside of the Cleveland game where he was named AFC Defensive Player of the Week, there's been a lot left to be desired out there and for Roquan. And we know since his absence, there's been a lot of issues in level 2, whether that's alignment, communication, execution, you name it. I expect, obviously, I mean, he told reporters on Monday, Jeff, that he will be playing.
Yes, he did.
So we'll take him at his word. The hamstring is just like for Lamar. It's scary, especially for a middle linebacker, knowing how those tend to linger. You hope that he'll be able to keep up because not only from a communication standpoint, but they need his presence out there, knowing what you guys both just mentioned. You're getting no one home consistently. And so you got to be good against the run, and Roquan's got to bring all that and more. And whoever is going to be his running mate, presumably Teddy, needs him maybe more so than anybody on that defense. So for me, it's Roquan. Cole has the entire offensive line. Jeff, why don't you cap us off?
I mean, it's the quarterback. Like, and I don't say that under the traditional hot seat. Like, if he doesn't play, that he's in trouble of not returning. Like, let's not get this twisted, or he's on the, he's on the chopping block if he's not there. They need him to win, and their season is circling the drain, and a lot rides on Sunday's game in terms of the trade deadline, what they do going forward, whether jobs are on the line. all that. They need to win Sunday's game. And if Lamar Jackson is not playing in Sunday's game, then I don't know how much confidence you could have that they're going to win that game. Now, they should be capable of beating the Bears at home without Lamar Jackson, but the history without him, what are they, 4-12 now, and how they've played the previous 3 weeks without him, 3 games, certainly does not spur a lot of confidence that they were going to be able to get the result they want without him. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued. I'm not saying he needs to play hurt or play, if he can't play, he can't play. End of story. He should make that decision. It's his hamstring. He knows how he feels. You can only do so much. He has to be ready to play. As Cole said earlier, it's the same as Pat Ricard. These guys have been around a long time. They know their body. They've earned the right to make that call. But until we know whether he can play or not, and if he does play, whether he's going to be comfortable and be able to execute and not be rusty. I mean, he's the guy. He's the guy in the spot this week. It's like all eyes are on Lamar Jackson. So it may not be the traditional hot seat I'm talking about, but this is as must win. You couldn't have a bigger must win game in October. And this was a team that was supposed to be judged by what they do in January. If they lose Sunday, you can kiss January goodbye, because there will be no January for this football team beyond the regular season. So that's why that's what it's all about. As Marlon Humphrey said at his locker, a very dejected Marlon Humphrey, it's all about winning one game. And they need Lamar Jackson to win this one game. They can win without him, as I said earlier, but obviously you feel a lot better about their chances if number 8 is under center. So that's why it couldn't be more hot around him this week, just because they're dying for him to come back and lead them. And if he's healthy enough to do it, I'm sure he'll be out there.
Cole, we know what's at stake this weekend. Obviously, to Jeff's point, it's you gotta win one game. If Roquan's able to come back, we know this is a team that's ripped off 4 wins in a row. Yeah, you can talk about the strength of schedule or lack thereof all you want, but Ben Johnson's a dog. Caleb Williams appears to be developing. He's got a 2-headed monster duo at wide receiver in Moore and Adunze, a capable running back in DeAndre Swift, and other pieces around him. Does Roquan's presence, his presence alone, and hopefully he'll be joined by the Cheetos of the world, and Marlon will obviously be back since he returned prior to the bye, and a couple other pieces along the way. How much does Roquan's presence in the middle change the overall dynamic of this defense for you?
It definitely makes a difference, but Ben Johnson is going to run at you the exact same way the Detroit Lions did. Like, that's where Ben Johnson came from. They're not doing a whole lot different offensively in the run game. They're a duo zone heavy team. That's what Chicago has been. And he's got Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, a guy he was familiar with from Jonah Jackson's time in Detroit. They got Drew Dalman in the middle. Darnell Wright can grind. Like, they have a big physical offensive line. They put the assets into the guard position, something that the Ravens probably should have done. So how much of a difference is he going to make? Like, they're not playing downhill. Like, this has been my biggest criticism of the Ravens linebackers. They play tentative, they play slow, they play soft. And it's been a weekly thing. So Roquan's part of that. So is Roquan Smith going to make a difference? I mean, he's a better player than Teddy Buchanan. He's a better player than Trenton Simpson when he's lined up there. He's better than Jake Hummel. So, of course, he's going to be an improvement, but it's the style in which this Ravens defense is playing. They are probably one of the least physical Baltimore Ravens defenses I've ever seen. It's something I've focused on. Hell, I'm getting in fights with parents online about it. And, it's pure nonsense. So, it really speaks to this intersect between player performance and scheme and coaching. And can Rowe play downhill? Of course he can. We know he can, but they just aren't doing it. And I think a lot of that is his running mate. And I'll say it again, and I'd love to keep saying it. Give Jay Higgins a shot beside him. If it all fails, you're probably no further behind than you are right now. They're in a desperation mode. Why not kind of try something new where we've seen this kid play downhill? So that would be my adjustment. I would go to Jay Higgins at the will linebacker position. And Jay-Z, made a joke about it, but I think the only way that this team is going to be able to get pressure and be, more physical is to have that aggressive style that Wink Martindale had. Now, you can't just blitz every play like Wink did, but I really seeing them kind of, drop into cover 2 with their front 5 of the cover 2 shell 8 yards off. I can't watch it again. Like I can't. Like watching that Rams game was painful. So I want to see something different. I want to see them, if you're not able to get them more physical, call your plays more physical, get them running downhill with blitzes. I think that, there's something to be said about if you're going to die, you may as well die on your own sword. Right. So that would be my kind of approach.
Jeff, do you have anything to add before I transition you over to the other side of the ball?
No, I agree with you. I mean, they talked an awful lot about looking at scheme and about creating pressure. They've had a week to prepare for this game, more than a week, because you had all last week and you're going to have all, this week too. They have to figure out a way to get to Caleb Williams to make him uncomfortable. I mean, look, Caleb is much improved. Ben Johnson's doing a hell of a job, but you see plays each game where you see his youth still. And they need to take advantage of it. They need to turn the ball. They need to turn the ball over a couple times. Obviously, it starts with stopping the run, but you need to bother the quarterback and get him out of. If he gets in a rhythm, he's going to carve him up. Just like my first thought watching that Houston Texans game, and I don't know how much you saw of it, Cole, because you were celebrating. You're probably drunk over your Blue Jays win, but that was awful. And I was looking at it like, this team scored how many points against the Ravens? I mean, they couldn't do anything, Texans, last night against Mike McDonald's defense. So,
I miss Mike.
You've seen them solidify the middle of the field. You got Roquan back. You got Kyle Hamilton close to the line of scrimmage. You got Alohi Gilman at safety now in the middle of the field. I think he'll be more comfortable now. He's had a couple weeks, and I think he played pretty well for his first game. So, yes, you have the pass rush issue that needs to be solved, but you have fixed some things. You should not get, pushed down the field on skates like they've been doing in some of these games.
Jeff, sticking with you in terms of the blame game, Todd Monken's caught some flack in recent weeks. Are you buying or selling the idea of him as, I don't want to call it a scapegoat, but an easy point let's call it on the end of some within this fan base pointing the finger as a way of divvying up said blame?
No, I'm selling it. And again, I'll preface that by saying, I think Todd Monken's had a tough year. I don't think he's had the answers. And I'm not saying he shouldn't get some blame, but the fact that he's kind of become the center of criticism, and, Baltimore Sun did a big story about what ails the Ravens and how they got into this mess. And, everyone knows my fondness for the Baltimore Sun from working there all those years. Those guys are my good friends. But it seemed like he kind of got the headliner or the blame in that story. And it's just like, wait a second. I mean, prior to week 3 or week 4, really before Lamar went out, we were talking about this offense is one of the best in the league. And yeah, they've hit a rough patch, and most of it has come with their backup quarterbacks on the field. I think the offensive line has been poor, and I think that limits Monk in a lot of ways. I think he needs to have more answers. They need to be more efficient. The fourth quarter in Buffalo, he needed to be more aggressive. So I think he's had a tough year, but man, if we're lining up problems on this team, Todd Monken ain't anywhere close to the top of that list. And if he is, and if you insist he is, you're not watching this team. And furthermore, when you have players who want the ball more, who aren't playing as much as they want, who aren't putting the stats up that you want, they're going to be grumbling, and they're going to be pointing at the offensive coordinator. That's how it works in 32 buildings in the league. Bateman would love to have the ball more. DeAndre Hopkins would love to play more. Isaiah Likely would actually like to have a ball thrown in his direction. Zay Flowers would love to have the ball more. So, yeah, guys are pissed. They want the ball. That's how it works. But and Todd Monken is part of the solution of getting these guys the ball. They need to have more plays on offense. I think that's been a big problem. They need to start blocking people in the passing game. That would help. I saw Woody Johnson today from the Jets say it would help if we could actually complete a pass. Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
No, Jay-Z, you're nailing it, because you look around the league, you look at bad offensive line play. It is really hard to call a productive offense when your protection is that bad. And again, I have done a video on the pass protection every single week. It's like torturing yourself every Monday. And, it has been a fundamental problem going all the way back to game one. And it was a fundamental problem that we all kind of, if you go back to our preview show, we talked about the offensive line and where, this offense will live and die there. Most offenses do. People that don't really dive into, the X's and O's of the game don't really understand how tough it is to call a good offense with bad offensive line play. Yeah. You go to anytime we've seen good offenses like Patrick Mahomes struggle, where is it always related to? It's always related to his offensive line play. So it's just one of those things where, if you don't have a good O-line, good luck in this league. Like and I'm getting sick of every team that we prepare for. It's like, well, damn, they have a pretty good edge rusher duo. And, Montez Sweat is coming to town. And, Javon Dexter's been making plays up front. They have Grady Jarrett, who is a grizzled vet that can make a play at any time. And Deo has, been developing. Every single damn team in this league has good edge rushers except for the Ravens.
Hey, and don't forget about the friggin' do-it-all linebacker they got too. Edmonds, he's filthy, and he's their leading tackler.
Yeah, and they fly around the field. And they got Kevin Byard on the back that, he'll if you make a mistake, he's picking that ball. He's got 4 picks already this year.
Again, and Bobby, just to be clear, Monkey needs to be better. I'm not saying he doesn't, but man, I mean, he's not one of their major problems right now.
Where I will say he's been a major – I would put most of the blame on him inside the red zone, specifically inside the 10. Like, if you want to gripe on Todd Monken there, I get it. Outside of that, I just, plus or minus a couple plays, when I was reading the comment that was made about the creativity, you don't have creativity because you got 3 guys in a pass pattern. Like, what are you supposed to do with that when they're going to rush 4 or 5, keep, 6 back, and you're keeping in 7 to protect. Like, you're outnumbered.
Yeah. I think it's an efficiency issue, not a creativity issue. And I think it starts with getting more plays. When you have more plays, you have more margin of error.
But you know what I keep coming back to, and this is obviously going back to the post game for the Rams and whatnot. I think we all agree that John Harbaugh, of course, expects to and should expect that you can push it across the line a half yard out, but also having a familiarity with your personnel or lack thereof, to both of your points here, right? Like, you do not have the personnel right now that can give you that can instill that confidence. And I wonder if that's having an impact on Todd second guessing himself, or perhaps hesitancy or tentativeness, Cole, inside the red zone, like you talk about, where they
try and get cute, right? Like they're trying to kind of run, like they tried to run a trap play where they, and Derrick Henry gets stuffed. And then you go back to the Lions game, maybe it was, when they were down on the goal line and they tried to run that little toss pitch where they pulled one of the line. It's like, just fucking run it downhill. Like, Christ, like.
But we've also seen them try the rollout stuff and try different stuff. And then people say, why are you taking away half of the field? Like, why are you limiting yourself? When is the last time they've created a touchdown on one of those rollout plays? Or a 2-point conversion? Because that was their go-to for a while, and 2 points. Roll out Lamar, and those don't seem to work either. But, I agree. The red zone has been a major problem. The turnovers offensively have been a major problem. I think some stuff you could lay at his feet, say he's been a part of, and other stuff I think, it's kind of unfair. I mean, you're calling plays with kind of one hand behind your back when you're getting lit up at the line of scrimmage on every play.
One thing I want to add just before we kind of move on, like, a guy that I think should be a bit more, I don't know. Hot seat usually means I think they're going to get fired. So I think his seat should be hot, but I don't think he's going anywhere. But I think Eric DeCosta's seat should be hot. Like, this offensive line was built by him. He made the decision to trust the guys on his roster in terms of developing the 2 guards that we currently have. And the only higher quality investment they made on the offensive line was Emory Jones, who, they probably didn't, they probably expected him back earlier, but they still drafted a guy with a known injury. And, I would have thought that they maybe learned a little bit of a lesson from the David Ojabo piece where, and even Andrew Voorhees to a certain extent, where, they kind of went with 2 injured guys, kept them around. And I know that he's not necessarily the same sort of situation, but you had to bring in competition on your offensive line, and the only guy that you made a premium investment in was a guy that hasn't been able to get on the football field. Like Eric DeCosta has to wear some of that.
Let's not forget he signed Cooper Rush too.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And to a good chunk of money that maybe you could have gave to a veteran offensive lineman. So I just, we get into the coaches, we get into the players, but at the end of the day, there's an architect that puts these pieces together. And I think he's got to wear some of this for the failures of the offensive line. I'll own my own takes. I did think we'd see much more development out of Andrew Voorhees, where you could have lived with, Falele not, maybe being that kind of under league average right guard. But that's why they don't pay me the big bucks to build the damn team. So,
hey, I was going to mention too, just to be thorough, he obviously did extend Ronnie Stanley, but the elephant in the room on that is, Jeff, can you confirm, is it the same surgically repaired ankle? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
Because
it's his right ankle now, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it was his left foot.
I asked that question, and we were talking about that on the sideline. We were watching practice like 10 days ago, and he's been out there.
Well, that's more encouraging than the alternative.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Harbaugh was asked I think it was Monday, a bye week, whether this is all related to his previous ankle injury. And I think he said it wasn't. I think he just said this is something else that's cropped up.
I don't think I can criticize that signing though. Like you're screwed at the left tackle position with a late first round pick. Like,
look, and I think you measure the DeCosta criticism, and I think he, that Rams game, he was a subject of my game story just because I'm like, the backup quarterback that he signed played poorly. The offensive line that kind of has been he's the one that assembled it, was terrible and didn't get the job done on a key sequence of the game. So, that surely suggests I realize that there needs to be some fingers pointed at him too. When you're 1-5 or from a team with Super Bowl aspirations, fingers should be pointed at everyone. Let's be honest, guys. But he shouldn't be exempt either. So
and they have
and when you talk about a bye week, Stanley's a guy that you really hope that this benefited him in a big way. Yeah, what is it? 3 or 4 straight games he's either not played or left early, and that's tough to overcome when your left tackle is leaving early in 2 or 3 straight games.
And your backup is straight up booty cheeks. It's been bad with no boom in there.
Cole, you made the comment earlier on, the grass ain't always greener on the other side. McCary was serviceable at every single position, not to mention when they were doing the rotation when Ronnie had dealt with past ankle injuries. The guy played left tackle and every other frickin', as you know, doing the study.
And it's tough because McCary got a good chunk of money, right? The Jags paid him pretty handsomely for that. And the Ravens paid him handsomely on his second quarter. They were paying a backup guy that he was a backup for 3 years on that contract, pretty substantial money, but that's the value you get where when Ronnie does need to step out, you can put in a guy that can get you out of a game. Whereas Joe Noteboom gets out there and, I hate ragging on the guy. He's out there, he's doing his best. I respect that, but he's fighting it. He's struggling. It's been hard to watch.
They miss McCary's toughness too. To a man, you ask people in the locker room, who is one of the nastiest dudes in here? Who would you not want to take on in a fight? And McCary would be mentioned within the first couple names. He doesn't come across as that kind of guy, but that dude has an edge to him. He can be nasty. He holds teammates accountable. I think they missed the whole package there, guys. But I also wouldn't have re-signed him, given
you can't pay him the money he got for sure.
Yeah, no, you couldn't pay that kind of money.
And we can't go down this road of revisionist history, right? It's not so much that I think McCary should have been the move. I think they should have drafted a guy that wasn't hurt. I think that's been my biggest critique. And also I think, the edge rusher failures that we have, I've talked about this for weeks. I'm not necessarily putting that on Mike Green because he's 6 games into his NFL career, but this is where you needed Ojabo, you needed Isaac, and you spent quality draft capital on these guys. And if you go back through those drafts, if you guys want to really torture yourself, go back through the drafts going back to 2021 and look at who was drafted after Owe, Ojabo, and Isaac. You'll punch yourself in the face 13 times. It's painful.
Just a reminder, McCary signed for 3 years, $37.5 million, and he was an undrafted rookie of theirs in 2019 out of Cal. So, and that's what Jacksonville gave him, those figures that I just mentioned. Guys, let's finish up with one super chat before we get on out of here. Jeff, I'll let you take this one from JS1919 again.
Feels like Harbs has always been passive-aggressive with Eight's past injuries with the media and pushing him to play. What point is Eight fed up with having to save Harbs over and over? It seems like we've reached a boiling point. Yeah, I would push back on that. I think they give Lamar Jackson a ton of latitude. I think Lamar insists on stuff being private. He doesn't like when stuff gets out about him, about injuries. I think some of the uncertainty with how Harbaugh talks about him is because they don't want to, put out anything that Lamar doesn't want out there, not to mention the strategic aspect of teams not knowing whether your starting quarterback's going to play or not. So I don't think John Harbaugh has been, I mean, people are going to disagree because I think there's a portion of this fan base who, it's all pro Lamar and everything that's not related is Harbaugh's fault. But I think they kind of handle Lamar Jackson with kid gloves in the building, and they always have, and they give him a leeway. I mean, what was John's quote earlier in the season? Lamar's going to do what he wants to do. I forgot the exact quote. So I don't really feel like that. I think they want him out there. They need him out there, but they also understand that, if he can go, he can go. The dude's a competitive guy. If he can play, he can play. But I don't think that, they're trying to force him out there or they're trying to deceive. I think some of it, they're uncertain like us. I mean, as I said, I think in a lot of ways that, the hope was he'd practice this week. Now we shall see if that happens.
Cole, why don't you finish this up? Another one, JS1919, unloading super chats tonight for you.
Last one for the night, but EDC deserves huge blame. Starks will be good, I think, but looking back, I would have preferred would have taken Jahad Campbell or heck even Simmons building from the back. I actually agree with that. We've talked about that quite a bit. I might not have gone Jahad Campbell personally, but I do think that there should have been a bigger investment in the trenches. I think we talked about this. Me and Jay-Z, I think, talked about this last week with, where they decided to build and how they could have put more capital into the front lines, basically, whether that was on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, specifically on the interior. So I know it's always hard to make, that investment at the guard position, but I mean, look at Seattle's O-line with Gray Zabel. Like they're not looking back being like, oh darn, we only have him for 4 years on a rookie deal. Like, who gives a shit? You got a productive player on your offensive line.
All right. That brings us to the end of Super Chats. We appreciate you guys for coming out in droves tonight, well over 400 concurrents at peak. So we appreciate that a lot. And if you could, on the way out, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment based on your feedback. And we are in the audio only space. Typically, those episodes are released the following day. So the three of us will be back in what will be a very, very short week, as we've already mentioned a couple times, this time next week, and we'll be at that point a week out from the deadline, which is November 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Anything else from you guys before we close tonight?
Yeah, let's clarify something, guys. I mean, everywhere I turn, I hear about video games being yanked from the locker room and pinball machines getting tossed into the harbor and ping pong tables being broken in a million pieces. First of all, that didn't just happen. That was weeks ago where they got some of that stuff out. And the second point is, it was not coach's decision. It was not John Harbaugh. It was a group of veterans that said, let's hone in here, guys. It's just when you lose, stuff like that gets overblown, exaggerated. It does not matter. Play a good football game. And so I get the attention. I get people are frustrated. I get people are looking for reasons about players being distracted or all that. And no, it was just a couple veterans thought, let's get back to the basics here. Let's get serious. Let's send a message that this is all business and we need to hone in. And, that's how that stuff kind of got removed from the locker room. So it was not some big organizational decision or big bad John Harbaugh coming down on his players, his mighty men wanting to send them a message. No, it really wasn't about that, nor is it really that significant to whether they play well Sunday or not. Play a good game, win a football game, and people will stop hanging on nonsense that doesn't have a lot to do with whether you win a football game or not.
Front Office Sports, PTI, Fox.
I just saw the PTI clip go up. Like, my God, did that ever? The amount of focus on a pinball machine that I heard. So that
Harbaugh bought for the locker room.
One of the players reached out to me with it and said, "This got removed 3 weeks ago. Like, what's going on here? Like, I don't get it. Like."
Well,
anyway,
when you lose and you're the biggest disappointment in the NFL, this stuff gets legs, and it's not. It's an interesting aspect of it, and the Sun's not to blame. I mean, they reported it accurate. Well, I don't know if they reported who removed them. I've forgotten that part of the story, but I don't know if they said it was the coaches. It was the players. A couple of the veteran players thought it would be a good idea to. But again, like, I'm not saying they made a big deal out of it. It's just funny what kind of people run with. And but that's what happens when you lose. And you'll keep hearing more and more of these stories. You'll keep getting guys grumbling quietly because their payday's getting ruined by this, or they're not getting the ball they want. That's what happens on losing teams everywhere. It doesn't necessarily have some grand meaning. It's because they are 1-5. Everyone's trying to figure out why they've played so poorly and why has things gone so badly in Baltimore. And that's what you kind of get. This is one of the ramifications of it.
All right, great. Appreciate the context. It's a great place, I think, to stick a pin in this for a week or so. And then just to be thorough here from a breaking news standpoint, not a surprise, but Pelissero, other NFL insiders noting that Max Crosby, who's speaking of getting legs, I think, teams' interest, specifically today's report that came from, I think, Trey Wingo, formerly of ESPN, about Dallas's interest in Crosby. The Raiders met with him today, let him know that they are not shopping him and won't trade him. Yep. Wonder if that changes if 3 first-round picks end up in Pete Carroll's lap.
And again, that's the same was said about Jeffrey Simmons, another guy. Titans have been clear he's not going anywhere. You see a lot of names out there. Too. What's that?
He got hurt on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. You see a lot of names out there available. The reality is there's very little available, but you have to get creative. If you win these 2 games, that's when you can take a big swing, and I think they need to take a swing. If you don't, then I think. And
I didn't think about it, but they're going to have that second game before the deadline, so they're going to have an extended run at the deadline. I didn't think about that.
And guys, like, if they lose Sunday, we our whole show on Bobby makes these calls. I just they just have me on here. I don't know why, actually.
Collaborative. It's collaborative, right?
If they lose Sunday, our whole show should be on who they're trading at the deadline. And that's because that's what this has come to. Like, they should be sellers, absolutely, if they lose Sunday.
Can we all just agree that we're not doing another State of the Ravens? Like, we did it 3 weeks in a row. One more buyers or sellers, and then we run.
Oh, that's good. All right, promise. It's a 3-way promise. This is a collaborative effort here, all right? We will make that and bring that into existence.
I just gotta laugh. We were looking at, you go back to our pregame or preseason. It's like, we're going to be 4-2 probably going into the bye, and then you come out against the Bears and Dolphins, and then we're really cooking with grease, and we're sitting here 1-5. Like, just boy, does life ever come up and smack you in the face. Like, could be worse though. You could be a Seattle Mariners fan today.
Right. Oh, you knew they'd get that in.
Bringer, dinger, baby.
Right. And let me just tell you, having gotten back from your country for 6 days, my first ever time doing extended travel out in the Canadian Rockies, all I wanted was to watch the instant classic that became 40 versus 40, Rodgers versus Flacco, and not one goddamn bar in Banff had the football game on because maybe deservedly so.
What was on?
Because the Blue Jays are on a run.
Is that what it was? Okay, so it was on the Thursday night. Yeah, I didn't even watch the football game, to be honest.
Yeah. I was at the Great Wolf Lodge, and they don't have prime television in my hotel room. And even if they did, I wouldn't be able to watch it because my 2 knucklehead kids were sleeping, so I couldn't turn on the TV in the same room. So I missed that beauty too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, I feel better now because watching the highlights back on that one and seeing Joe just so in his element on 10-day turnaround. The fact he's not even knowing the schematics and some of the intricacies of what they were doing schematically, and yet look at what he does. So
the RPO keeper has got to be on his career highlight tape.
Oh,
that was
so
terrific.
Good. So good. All right, gentlemen, great stuff. Thanks again for holding down the fort last week. We will be back a week from tonight. And at that point, again, we will be a week out from the NFL trade deadline. For Cole, Jeff, I'm Bobby signing off. If you could on the way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and most importantly, join us 1 week from tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, in our usual slot here inside the Collective. We'll talk to you then.